basically um, differential build-up and their correlational public health risk. Basically, this is his main focus. Mr. Kehinde works with SRK apps, integrated services, to provide intelligence on sustainable agriculture or agribusiness models, water modeling, rearing facility, and fish feed leachate management, basically. His recent and most current researches are focused on aquatic ecotoxicology through investigation of contaminants and pollutant fates, basically, transmutation and interaction within environmental biota and non-biota components, up to detailed levels of organization and remediations. He is a mentor, advisor to different and several individuals, environmental and ocean organizations, and technical partners of some agro-fishery business ventures globally. He enjoys surfing, reading, critical analysis, and traveling to places of ecological interest. Please help me welcome Mr. Kehinde as he takes on the floor to take us this very interesting topic on creative thinking in aquatic conservation. Mr. Kehinde, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Sherifdeen. It's great being here, and thank you for having me. I'm trying to share my screen.
Thanks for honoring our invite.
Can you all see my screen?
Yes, it is loading. It is low. Yeah, yes, exactly. Now we can see it.
All right.
Good.
So, thank you once again. Creative thinking in aquatic conservation. And when I saw the topic, I said, wow, this is very good at this point in time, so that we have great ideas on how to, bring some new innovations, new ideas, new strains into aquatic conservation. And here we are, and permit me to begin by looking into creative thinking as well as critical thinking, because the two goes hand in hand, and one cannot be creative if one is not critical in its approach. So I'll begin the definition. Okay. Here are my agenda. Then we look at critical thinking and creative modeling or approach. What is aquatic conservation? Threats to aquatic conservation, the principles of critical thinking, and how we can deploy this critical thinking or creative thinking aquatic conservation before we move to question and answer session. Creative thinking simply means solving a problem or taking decision using principles, facts, sifted, that is separated from observations, experience, reasoning, assumption, as well as biases, views, ideas, or desires. That's according to Scriven, 1996. And this means that creative thinking is all about solving a problem or taking decision for the next level or to the next level. And this decision must have been tested against all parameters, against all variables, against all metrics for us to be able to say, wow, we're taking the right decision or that the problem has been solved. And creative thinking, on the other hand, simply means application of analytical thinking to birth new innovations or improve existing innovations from or using existing ideas or innovations. Now, creative thinking simply refers to you bringing a novel idea or bringing novelty to an existing ideas. You are not bringing out something new. You are only, bringing another dimension into what is in existence. And then, if peradventure you are critical enough, then you can bring up new ideas from your creativity. And so two things determines this level of thinking, and that is the quality of thoughts. Our quality of thought determines how creative we are going to be and how critical our approach is going to be when we are doing our thought processing. So this quality of thought depends solely on facts and principles. Yes, so facts and principles. And you discover that I have it so much, thought out because facts and principles are different from assumptions, are different from biases, are different from ideas or desires, even um, are more prized than observation, experience, and reasoning because all other and pieces of information can be gotten from a common places. But when it comes to facts and principle, then such or the two components must have been tested against all available information. Then we can say this is a fact because data has been generated, then facts can then be taken out either from theory or from any theorem. Then we have our facts, and this too leads to knowledge. So if our quality of thought depends on biases, beliefs, superstitions, norms, traditional views, then they will adulterate our quality of thoughts. And that is going to affect our creativity as well as our level of critical thinking. We are all biased human beings. Every man and woman is biased human being. And we try to, limit our level of biases so that it don't affect us when we are making decisions. So critical thinking employs logic and intellectual criteria, and which are accuracy, precision, the depth, then the breadth and relevance of whatever you are looking into. And at the end, you must be fair to all information that you have consulted before you can say you have come to a logical conclusion or you have come to a good decision which can stand the test of time. So, as a leader, we should combine critical thinking and creative thinking. And the end point of critical thinking and creative thinking in business or in other endeavors is paradigm shift or disruptive approach and models. So if you are trying to change a particular industry or change a particular status quo or try to bring something different, something new, something dynamic, then you have to combine critical thinking as well as creative thinking for us to get the best out of our affairs. So as an individual or stakeholder, our duty is to think differently and change the status quo in aquatic conservation, which is the main focus of this webinar. So permit me to define what is aquatic conservation. It refers to sustainable exploitation and utilization of bioeconomic resources in both freshwater and marine ecosystem for present and posterity uses. And now, here is the crux of conservation. Our forebearers have had access to these resources before we have access to them. Now it is now onus on us. It behoves on us to ensure that we manage, we conserve, and we preserve these resources for the people or for the generation coming right after us, so that there will be so that they will have access to its continuous use and benefits. These bioeconomic resources include bio means biological economies resources. So things that are living that we can conserve, like fish and other seafood, coral reefs, algae, seaweed, and aquatic macrophytes. So those are kelps and every other um, plants that are within both fresh and marine environment. Now, looking at this topic, it has been a problem across board, across developing countries, across developed nations, and they've been caught in the web of aquatic conservation or even conservation generally because so many things, require the use or accessibility to all these resources, which is creating problems. So we are going to be looking at the threats to aquatic conservation. Aquatic conservation is an Herculean task as people and nations globally are caught between the ocean and the deep blue sea of the following myths, beliefs, and superstitions. These these two or these three threats, you know, bring resistance to change, especially when it comes to conservation. And we have this belief that my effort doesn't count. So why should I, as as a as a fisher folk or as a fisherman, should think, conservatively? Why I have needs, why I have mouths to feed, why I have so many things to do with money or to cater for. So why should I? So my effort doesn't count. So people just become so lackadaisical when it comes to conservation. So they believe their effort, that their solo effort doesn't count. Then they throw caution to the wind and then join the bandwagon to exploit these resources, indiscriminately. Then we have this image again that says aquatic resources are inexhaustible. So because our fathers and our fathers' fathers had access to all these things, then it means that it can never finish. So we can take as many as we want. So these are the threats. Then I have a lifestyle, unsustainable lifestyle, and these are embellished in our traditions using aquatic life like fish, like um, shellfish, their skin, their teeth for special delicacies, for clothing and ornaments. Countries like China value shark, the fin of shark, and then they place premium on shark fin. So most of the times when sharks are exploited, their fin are harvested and the bulk of the shark might even be thrown back to the water. So we'll get to that later. So these are the lifestyle that are not sustainable and would jeopardize aquatic conservation. Then hunger and poverty. An hungry man feasts and exploits irresistibly. There's nothing you would tell someone that is hungry, and he will never listen because he's after survival. So, and because he wants to survive, then he will do everything possible, even though there are laws or there are, sanctions, he will still find a way, to get around those things. And that, will affect conservation. Now, poverty is not limited to people that are poor or people that doesn't have financial or people that don't have good financial standing. People can be rich and still have impoverished mindset of taking and taking and taking without looking back. And that is an impoverished mindset. Even though their purse or their bank account are fat, they don't care unless they keep on getting and getting. So these are the problems, and they keep on sponsoring even people that are poor to go into it and then get things done. And because they are highly placed, then they know how to, maneuver the system, manipulate those involved, and then get their way out. So that's the two-edged sword, combating aquatic conservation. Then we have illegal killing and poaching. This involves capturing and selling red-listed fish species that are on the IUCN, and then people, get them. Like I said earlier, shark. for gains. People exploit these animals and then they kill them, whether they are big or whether they are small, whether they are young or whether they are old. And the most unfortunate is that they even catch those that are spawners. And this is a very big threat to the population dynamics of the affected species. So sometimes conservation can also be set back due to reprisal attack. I give you an example. When shark attacks a fisher folk or a fisherman or tourists or people that found themselves around the premises of the ocean or the sea, then fellow fishermen or fisher folks will, gang up, enter the sea and, retaliate by killing as many sharks that they can see because sharks are the top predator and then they can kill anything that they can attack anything as long as they believe that their weight can take the person out. So farmers, I mean to say, fisher folks or fishermen, we have to repraise, we have to attack back by killing them in their hundreds, in their thousands, as many as they could set their eyes on. And this is bringing conservation to a standstill. So another threat is seabed extractive activities. And this is another major mine, gold mine, that people have discovered within the aquatic environment, that there are some special um, gold bags, like some minerals, like some metals, some sulfides that are loaded or that are concreted on the seabed. So they go there with the machines, to exploit them. In the process, they destroy the coral reefs, they destroy the breeding sites of aquatic animals, and just because they want to extract minerals, they want to extract oil, and that is giving setback to aquatic ecosystem. So sulfide are found on the hydrothermal vents between 1,000 to 4,000 meters depth, and the polythermal nodules of manganese are found within 4,000 to 6,000 depths. So, and the cobalt are found within the 800 to 2,500 meters of exclusive economic zones. So, of any nation, these resources are mined, without caution, without taking into consideration the aquatic um, um, resources that are there. The another biggest problem is pollution. So pollution, which comes from chemical or oil spills, and the one that Aquaworld, so much devote enough resources, time to is plastic waste pollution, and this comes from industrial as well as crude oil exploration. Pollution can also come from shipping by ship releasing ballast water within the marine ecosystem. Sometimes transporting or ships or ferries used for transportation can also spill oil within the aquatic environment, which will later affect the health and well-being of the aquatic animal, thereby causing big problems to the aquatic ecosystem. Then we have poor research and development. Now, the, the rate at which research and development is going when it comes to aquatic conservation is slow, and therefore there are no innovations into sustainable production of alternative materials to what is found within the ocean. And then this is actually affecting aquatic conservation. So people keep on getting and getting or exploiting resources from the aquatic ecosystem. Then this also affects storage facility because people don't have access to storage facility so that like some fisher folks or most landing sites within Nigeria don't have good storage facilities. And once, the fishermen landed their catches, then spoilage starts, and then within a while, they will have to, throw back some of them that are bad, which again means that they have to go back to the sea to exploit or to catch more aquatic animals. So this is giving, setback to aquatic conservation. Then poor policy, and this is done intentionally to favor sectoral investors, people that are investing heavily in fish exploitation and or trawling. And then because they are the big guys, and the laws are weak, to get them. Even those, if at all the laws are there, it is not strong enough to deter them from stopping those activities within the aquatic ecosystem. So the fines are weak, and then the sentences, either jail sentences, are also weak, and some are even, bought over by paying fine for it. So, which means that people can actually, go on and on with indiscriminate exploitation of aquatic resources. But as a leader, we have our own role to play by showing that we look at all these problems in a critical manner for us to bring out a creative solutions to them. And in the next slide, we'll be discussing about all of this so that we will know how best to tackle them. At this point, let me ask if we are all together before I proceed.
100%. We are.
All right. Thank you. So let's look at the critical thinking principles that we can apply in aquatic conservation, whether you are being given assignments or you are conducting a research or you are conducting a survey on a particular interest, then I believe these principles can help us to navigate them as individuals and stakeholders within the aquatic conservation landscape. Number one is problem identification. Here we must clearly observe and identify the type of problems. Is it physical? Is it chemical? Biological? Sometimes it could be mental, like people that are poor, or metaphysical. There are these mystic beliefs with coastal environment that there are some powers that, guides those waters. So we must be able to identify specifically which of the problems are we addressing. There's no point addressing physical problem, then overlapping it with chemical. So if you are solving physical problems, then you must tailor all your approach, everything thereon, on physical aspect of the water body or of the animal of interest. Probably you're looking at the physical properties of the water. There's no point looking at chemical properties when you're looking at physical properties. I give you an example. If you are looking at the chemical properties that is affecting aquatic animal survival, let me pick shark for an instance, then all your focus must be limited to chemical properties. There's no point looking at salinity, looking at temperature, looking at color. Those are physical. So you must be able to identify precisely what you need or what you want to work on. Now, if the problem is undefined, then it gives us two approach. It is either you as an stakeholder or as a stakeholder or as individual that is working on a particular problem, whatever you are able to gather and submit will form the baseline for the undefined problem. So whatever tools you intend to use will be determined by you and will form a baseline information or knowledge for that particular area. And having a problem undefined also means that you might be lost on how to approach the problem. So which means that the problem might still remain undefined. So, and that takes, a lot of thinking, a lot of, consulting literature for us to be able to know which models and what we can do to approach a particular problem. Then thereafter, we move to problem definition. Now, having identified the problem, then you must set the scope or the range of identified problems. Like I said, if it is physical, if it is chemical, and if it is mental, then you know which exactly scope you are setting. So that you don't mix up, so many things around each other. Then having identifying and defining the problem, then you have to gather information. Every information your hands can have or can get. Just try to get them. Search through available existing data or information, and then begin with what you have. Then from there you'll be able to get out some facts from them. Now, having done that, then you have to define and understand all terms, approach, and models used in the information you are searching or you are consulting. So you must understand them to the very detail. If you are uh, consulting academic literatures or research or scientific research, those have their own way of understanding. So you must understand the methodology, you must understand the tools that are deployed, to carry the research out. You must understand every bit of it. Then if it is an intuitive solutions, then you must understand the approach the person used in solving that particular problem. And for every words and um, lexical tenses, then you understand them very well because it is from them that you bring out your own facts or your own submission. Then evaluate deployed models and approach. In this case, you must look at the models used in those consulted materials. Are they good? Do they align with the purpose for which they are intended for? If not, I've seen some scientific papers that where they ought to use regression models, they were using correlation models, and those things. Yes, they will have endpoints, they will have results, or they have conclusion, but it might not in any way present the logical beauty of their results. So sometimes one can deploy another models to, you know, test for some hypothesis on a particular data set and still get something fantastic from that result. So here you must look at the styles of writing of the article, the models used, the approach used from different point of views before one comes up with its own facts and conclusion. And having done that, you must critique facts as well as your conclusion against the reality. You know, one good thing is to submit um, a report, and that thing is for the report to align with the reality on ground. So critical thinking will help us to match what has been reported with the reality on ground. Then from there, we'll be able to pass new ideas, new concepts from the studies. Then having done that, what we now need to do is to synthesize all the findings together, collate, organize, and analyze your findings. So having done that, then the final part is you start, put your thoughts together, logically juxtapose your findings and write them down. And like I said earlier, you must be fair to consulted materials. And if you are in any way using your intuition, then you must be careful not to bring in your own biases into your own submission. So let's look at how to deploy creative model or approach in aquatic conservation. Now, like I said earlier, these desires, biases, or myths, views, observation, experiences, ideas. if these guys or if these commonly found information or pieces are not subjected to analytical thinking, then one will not be creative enough. Then as a leader, we must allow them to pass through that phase called analytical thinking or arguments, where you sieve out what is relevant from what is irrelevant, and then you'll be able to reach a logical conclusion. So as a leader, you should decipher, that is, you should be able to dictate these commonly found pieces, from facts and principles, subject them to argument or analytical thinking, then draw up conclusions, as well as project possible futuristic challenges. So this is very, very important for us to do. Now, critical thinking involves rigorously and skillfully using information, experience, observation, and reasoning to guide your decision, actions, and beliefs. So that is what I um, redefined in my opening definition of critical thinking. So as a leader in aquatic conservation, our duty is to bring out new approach, new thinking, innovations into what has been in existence, so as to be able to bring out a change that will last. Like, let me give you a typical example. There was a time the team went to Ibokoda, and then we were engaging the fisher folks, and then they were saying so many things about the dwindling stock, dwindling marine stock, that over the years that they realized that their stocks, the level of catches have reduced. And then Mr. Paul and I were able to let them understand that they need to change from their unsustainable living or lifestyle to sustainable. An average fisherman or fisher food has more than one wife, and that alone will put pressure on them to exploit more because of the level of responsibilities that they have. So advising them to move from unsustainable lifestyle to a sustainable lifestyle is very, very critical for them to conserve their aquatic resources. It will help them in their fishing efforts. Yeah, to cut down their fishing effort, so that those aquatic resources will be able to rejuvenate and then multiply. So that is one thing, that then we must be able to bring together stakeholders at the local level, then to the state level, to the national level, to look at the problems confronting these fisher folks. Do they have alternative sources of livelihood? So such can be provided. One of our striking experiences is that most of these coastal communities, particularly in Ondo State, their area have been cut off from the power grid. So which means that there are no alternative sources of livelihood. So every of their effort has been directed towards fishing, because that is the only thing they don't require power to do, other than getting gas or fuel, and then they start their fishing. But if there are alternative sources of livelihood, then you see them, some might even reduce their fishing effort by engaging themselves in other activities that will be productive, and that will also reduce the fishing effort. Then upskilling them to go into other areas of commerce and also help them to, cut down on their um, fishing activities, which will also help in conserving. So at this point, I've come to the end of my presentation, and I want to thank you once again for having me, and I await your questions, and I'll be able to answer all of them before I go. Thank you once again.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kehinde. That was quite enlightening. One thing I like about the presentation was the part where you mentioned the several principles of a critical thinker or as a leader, for example. Somehow, I kind of like could reflect and relate this to what I actually normally do, looking at, of course, identifying the problems, defining it, then seeing the best way to go around it. And I mean, these are like the basic principles. And of course, I'm glad that you kind of like stressed more on this part of this presentation. And yeah, I would say thank you for giving us these insightful ideas and opinions of yours. And yeah, without wasting much of our time, if anyone has a question, um, please signify by maybe raising your hand or just unmuting, asking your question. You can leave it also in the chat box. And yeah, please feel free to ask your questions and we can just go from there, basically. So we'll just like wait for maybe like a few seconds just to see if anyone has a question or any additional quotes or remarks regarding the presentation. And if not, yeah, we'll just put a hand to the program basically. Okay, it seems there is no question for today. So yeah, once again, thank you, Mr. Kennedy, for honoring our invite. This was a very wonderful session, and I'm very sure every one of us here would say we have learned one or two things from you and from your presentation as well. We really appreciate your efforts for putting this together in such a short notice, and we say thank you once again on behalf of Aquaworld.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sherudin, and then thank you, Aquaworld.
Yeah, thank you. Welcome. Okay, while there's no additional quotes or question, I would say today's program has ended. Thank you once again, everyone, for joining. And of course, tomorrow is going to be our final day. Please let's endeavor to attend tomorrow's session, 7 p.m., same link, same here on Zoom. And I wish you all a very lovely weekend ahead. Bye for now.
Bye.